It's one of those spotty days where like it might start raining at any moment with any random cloud. Oh boy. Alright, well, it's raining. We are going home and we're trying not to crash with the big smoothie tire. 11 amp hours and it's cutting off already. Oh. Whoa. Oh my. I wasn't expecting this. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. We're out on the dual hub bike. The dual hub bike, the dual hub motors. We're just cruising. I feel rejuvenated. I feel rejuvenated. I just got some sustenance in my belly. Hey, there's a little Scooty girl. Man, I've been seeing a lot of little Scooties lately. I'm a little bit scared to go on this road right now because every time I have lately, some kind of crisis happens when I'm flying. So we're just gonna go this way. Follow the Scooty. Let's see if I can. There it is. Little Scooty girl. She's really hugging into that thing. That thing is cruising. I wonder, was that like a class 2 Scooty? 20-mile-an-hour Scooty? I thought Scooties went quicker than that. I don't have anything against Scooty boys. I just kind of like the term. I just like saying it. I think that might have been a Scooty girl. She looked kind of sassy. Like she was yelling something at that car back there. I don't know why she was sassy. I think that was the second Scooty girl I've seen today. I don't know if it was the same girl or what. I think she might have put like a windbreaker on. Maybe it was the same girl I saw earlier. She was moving though. Not as fast as the dual hubbers. What do we got here? Man, we've gone through 4 amp hours. I gotta be careful with this unit pack power recalled battery because it doesn't quite give the range it used to. But so yeah, we're just out on the dual hub bike. I got distracted by the Scooty girl. I got very distracted. We're out on the dual hub bike. I thought I would talk about the dual hub bike a little bit because I've wanted to do a video for a while. Is this thing on? Yeah, it's on. I wanted to do a video for a while about dual hub motors and dual hub e-bikes. So maybe I'll try and do that in this one, talk about that a little bit. I have been riding this bike a lot lately, which is a little bit unexpected. Because I was thinking in the summer I'll put the crappy battery on this bike because I'm not going to ride it as much. But I still do like riding it. It's just a smooth cruiser. Wow, that was like a painfully slow stoplight. Sometimes if the cars behind you don't pull up close enough, you just get kind of stuck there. But yeah, we're cruising, dual hubs, dual motors. Let's stop at the park up here and we'll talk about it a little bit. This is going to be the dual hub masterclass. After this dual motor masterclass, you'll be able to commandeer your dual motor e-bike with professionalism and skill. So here we go. We're going up here. This is where the dual motor masterclass is being held today. Here we are again, back by the river. Alright guys, so I've been thinking about this video for a long time. The dual motor masterclass. What do you need to know to ride around a dual motor e-bike? And so it really depends on how your dual motors are set up, because a lot of e-bikes, or they'll have dual motors hooked up to one throttle. And so when you have both motors hooked up to one throttle, it can have advantages and it can have disadvantages. And how you ride the dual motor bike is going to depend entirely on how you have the throttle set up. So there's a couple different options. What you can do is you can have your motor, and then each motor has a controller and its own throttle, and each system works independently of each other. They can hook up to the same battery if the battery can handle enough discharge amps. Going back to like your throttle setup and how you ride the bike. So if you have one throttle that powers both motors, like I previously did, there's a feature in the Cycle Analyst from Tech where you can go into dual motor mode, and then there's this. So when you use the Cycle Analyst, you hook this thing up to the controller, right? And then the throttle goes through Cycle Analyst and then it goes to the controller. So then Tech also has a dual controller splitter for when you want to use two motors. So you hook that dual controller splitter into the Cycle Analyst. Then you can hook two controllers up to your Cycle Analyst, and then that one throttle from the Cycle Analyst goes to both controllers, powering both motors at the same time. But the problem that I've found when you have one throttle for two motors is that you have a limited degree of control over the individual motors, right? So like sometimes you might not want to use the front motor, and what a lot of e-bikes do is they have like a 3-position switch where it's like off, or then there's one motor, or there's two motors. That's what a lot of dual motor e-bikes do. But personally, on my dual motor bike, I've tried it both ways. I've tried it with independent controllers and throttles for each one, and I've tried it with one throttle for both motors. And I would say that when you're using dual motors, you probably want two throttles, because you want to be careful about when you give that front motor power. So I want to talk about that a little bit here, about being careful with the front motor, because that's kind of like the whole dangerous part about this is the front motors, right? Like the rear motor, you sit back here, the weight of the battery is back here. Like a lot of the weight of the bike is going down on that rear wheel, right? So a lot of the weight is in the back here. But when you've got a motor in the front wheel, it kind of affects the handling a little bit. Like you can't it feels a lot more like sluggish, you know, the steering. So it's definitely got a different feel to it. So that's one thing take into consideration about front motors. But also they don't have the same traction that the rear motor does. So they tend to just spin out. I mean, you can I have BMX bars on this bike, so that doesn't help, right? So I have these tall BMX bars with a lot of rise because I like an upright position, but that kind of puts me in an upright position where there's even less weight towards the front of the bike, and that doesn't help the traction of that front motor. But like, you just got to be aware that front motor, it just slips out. And when the front motor is slipping, if you're riding the bike and it's moving, you know, sometimes if you hit the throttle, you can have that front tire slipping out when you're going like 10 or 15 miles an hour. And that could be dangerous, because when the front tires start slipping out, depending on which way you have the bars turned, like you can just completely wash out, right? So like if the front motor is spinning out and you're just going straight, it's not a problem because the wheel won't slip out. But like if you're turning, like imagine you're going like 15-20 miles an hour and you're kind of turning the bike, and then you hit the throttle with that front motor. When the wheel is turned and you're hitting the throttle with this front motor, like it's kind of like got like a twisting effect that's going on with the wheel. And like if you're going and then all of a sudden you hit the front motor and that wheel starts slipping out and losing traction, the whole bike will just slide out. You'll just totally lose it. Front wheel will just totally slide and wash out, and you'll lose your balance, and it can be very dangerous. And I've seen a lot of YouTubers with like aerial rider grizzlies and different dual motor bikes where they give it to somebody else and they let them go ride it, and they're not used to it or experienced with it. And I've seen it time and time again, like Oregon e-biker Mark let somebody ride his Grizzly, and they were going around a turn like 10-15 miles an hour, kind of leaning into a turn just like you would on like a motorcycle or any other bike. But you can't ride that front motor the same way. You got to be careful with those front motors, right? So that's kind of like the main danger of the dual motor setup, is just like understanding the hazards of that front motor and how it can affect the handling of your bike and the weight of the front of the bike. Just getting a front motor mounted in your forks safely can be a challenge. Like most forks can't handle a geared hub motor. I blew out 2 forks when I was trying to get this motor, going on this bike. So there are some dangers involved. It's basically just the front, that front motor. It can be sketchy. It also makes for a heavy bike. That's one thing about it. When you have 2 motors, it can be heavy. But there are some advantages too. Like when you have 2 motors, if something happens with one, as long as the systems are independent, like I have them, then you should still be able to use the other motor with the other throttle. And in my case, I have a whole nother battery. Like there's separate batteries for each motor. So when you have it set up that way, where each system is independent of the other, then you have some redundancy. So if something goes wrong with one of them, you know, you still have the other one, right, that can get you back home. So in my case, I barely ever use the front motor. It's only for when I accelerate and for when I'm going up hills. Like I don't use it full time all the time like the rear one. And then a lot of the times when I get back, I've only used like, you know, like 2 amp hours or 3 amp hours from that 52 volt battery for the front motor, right? So in my case, like I don't necessarily need that front one on 72 volts. It would be nice if it was, but it doesn't necessarily need 72 volts, and it also doesn't need as big of a battery. So we've got 2 independent systems going on this thing right now, is how I have it set up. It's one of those spotty days where like it might start raining at any moment with any random cloud, but it's also been kind of sunny and nice at times. So we're just gonna see what happens. So I feel like it might rain a little bit here. I'm gonna move, but yeah, I've been riding the G62 hub a lot lately. I guess it's both of these hubs. The G60 is a lot noisier, the front one. I don't know like what it is exactly about the front G60. Like it's in a spot where the microphone on the GoPro can hear it better as one part of it. But also, like, it just, like, even when I'm riding the bike, like, it just sounds noisier, that front motor. And that's also part of the reason that I didn't like both motors on the same throttle, is just because that front one is so loud, and when you have it going all the time, it makes for a very noisy experience. And that's one of the disadvantages of these motors, is like, when you get them going and they're kind of up towards their top speed, they just get noisy with that oscillating noise. It's like wow, 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 wow. I think one of the things that's like my favorite part about these hub motors is just like you never have to do anything to them. Like they just keep going. People worry about the nylon gears breaking, but like I've never had that happen. So I don't know. I mean, you might have to be like heavier or carrying some cargo or something, or like getting your motor really hot to mess up the nylon gears. There's this guy parked up here like a retard. Oh. I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I did. So yeah, one of my favorite parts about these motors, these geared hubs, is so you just never have to mess with them usually. Unless something really gnarly happens. I mean, if you're like 200, 300 pounds or something, then yeah. Nylon gears might wear out a little bit faster. But I mean, the G62 is a 1,000-watt motor, and I've been riding it for years, doing like 2,000 watts, 3,000 watts, even more sometimes. And I've never had a tooth break off the nylon gear. I've never even really been able to notice much wear on them. I like pedaling the hub motor bikes more because the mid-drive isn't putting 2,000 watts through the drivetrain. There's some ominous looking clouds over there. I hope they're not coming this way. Like, the motor doesn't sound bad when you're kind of just going like half speed, but if you're going max speed, it's really loud and kind of annoying. I gave him the clown horn. The teacher is probably like trying to cover their eyes. Don't look at that guy. You don't want to be involved with those shenanigans. Kids seem to love e-bikes though. Yeah, that unit pack power battery was dipping down. I saw it go down to like 60 something volts. What are we at here? So we've used what was that? We've used 6 amp hours out of that thing, and it's at 76 volts. What is that noise? Is that a problem? Or is that just like loose shit? But yeah, so these hub motors usually don't have problems, and they usually just keep going. Like on my first e-bike, that thing, I rode it for years and I never did a thing to it. What is happening? What is that? I think it's just loose stuff on the road hitting my... Man. I think it's loose stuff hitting the fender. Look at that cloud up there, that is ominous. One thing about these big smoothie tires is they do seem to pick up a lot of like little rocks and stuff. I feel like we better turn away from these ominous clouds and go a different way here. The other thing about these hub motors is like they keep going, don't require much maintenance, and then when you do need to pop them open and put some grease in there, it's like dead simple. It's like 6 bolts, take the wheel off the bike. Very very simple to grease them up, and then they're usually good for a long time. Sometimes you might have to replace a little bearing or something, but no big deal. There's where my derailleur or my chain tensioner exploded on my mountain bike with the mid-drive. That's something I like about these hub motors is like, unless something like breaks terribly internally while you're riding, which never happens, then like you're gonna make it home. They're very reliable. What is going on here? So I would say that the disadvantage of, one disadvantage of these hub motors is like if you just have one of them, it kind of leaves a little bit to be desired in the torque department. Like on 72 volts, it's a little bit better, but I mean, I would say if you're going to go on 72 volts, a BBS HD is a lot better than like in terms of torque. These hub motors, they're kind of made for fat bikes. That's why a lot of e-bikes are these fat tire e-bikes, because these geared hubs, you know, there's just the physical size of the motor requires that the hub be, you know, 135 millimeters or 175 millimeters or whatever. Mine is 190 millimeters wide. My G62, my rear hub. But then the front one is 135 because it doesn't have the gears on it. So I like these motors, but one disadvantage of them is like, I wish I could put one on a bike that wasn't a fat bike. Because if you look at the Bafang hub motors that aren't for fat bikes, you know, they're like 135 millimeter size for a normal bike. But Bafang, they don't even make 1000 watt motors in that size. They only make fat bike motors that are 1000 watts. So another thing that's great about these hub motors is they don't, I mean, they can handle quite a bit of power, and they don't typically like overheat unless you're running them in like a really specific circumstance that can kind of be like avoided. So with these geared hubs, like if you're going really slow and the motor isn't spinning at the RPM that it likes to spin, it'll be heating up and it'll be running inefficiently. But that's just until you're going like 10 miles an hour or like 15 miles an hour is when it's running inefficiently. So the best way to overheat one of these geared hub motors is to be crawling up a hill really, really, really slow, and then giving it like full throttle, like up a mountain or something, where the bike can't go much faster than like 10 miles an hour, and it's just crawling up a big hill. Because in that's if you do that for an extended period of time, it's just going to be getting hotter and hotter, and all that inefficiency, you know, ends up as heat in the motor as it's going slow like that. And there is like a situation down here. What is this? It seems like there's some rainy looking clouds this way, so I don't particularly want to keep going this way, but look how jammed up traffic is too. I'm getting out of here before all those cars start coming. Oh. So yeah, unit pack power battery is already dipping below 70 volts. Yeah, I mean, these Bafang hub motors, they don't typically have the temperature sensor in them. And you're just kind of running it blind. There is a way to get a temperature sensor in there. I'd like to try that out. The Bafang wires the motor's a little bit funny. They use a 10-pin connector, but then there's only 9 wires in it, and the temperature wire is missing in the Bafang geared hub motors. So what you have to do if you want to put a temperature sensor in the Bafang geared hub is, like, you'd have to use something like a phase runner where it can read the temperature sensor and the speed signal from the same pin. There is a way to get it working with the phase runner that I'm going to try out to get the temperature sensor in the G62. But like I was saying, like I think one of the disadvantages of these geared hubs, at least most of them, is that they are fat bikes. So it's like I wish I could put one on a bike that wasn't a fat bike, but these geared hubs are just, that's just the width that they are. You know, they're like 175 millimeters wide. I would like to try and get eating bugs. I would like to try and get, I have a spare G62 somewhere. I also have a spare G61, the front 1000 watt one. But I would like to try and get my G62 on like a smaller bike that has normal sized wheels. Like, it would be cool to have a G62 on a BMX bike or something really small. I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, if I could put a G62 on a really light bike with like 20-inch wheels, that could be a lot of fun. But BMX bikes don't really have brake mounts. Man, I'm gonna snooze on this rain cloud here. It's like kind of going over me. Whoa, we've got sketchy high school drivers pulling out of school. Uh-oh. I saw a raindrop. Alright, well I'm taking this unit pack power recalled battery home before an electrical fire happens. It's at 72 volts. It's still propelling me forward. Probably start using the front one too though, because the unit pack power battery, the BMS starts cutting out at like 60 something. So yeah, I've been thinking about putting a G62 on like a lightweight bike, like a BMX bike or something, but I'd probably want something with like disc brake mounts. So I don't know about a BMX bike. I want it to be small and like you can throw it around, but have a G62 on it. That could be fun. I think the fat tires would just be too heavy. Like I'd like to get it on some kind of a, I don't know. The problem with the BMX bike is it'd just be hard to fit a G62 on it because it's just so wide. There's some bikes like SE bikes where they have kind of like bike life bikes where they have a derailleur and a derailleur hanger, and they have wider spacing where you could maybe widen it out if it's like you need some kind of like a steel framed bike where you could spread the dropouts and then fit a fat hub motor. I saw there's this charge ride repeat guy. He's got a channel on YouTube, and he fit a G62 onto a BMX bike somehow, and I don't know how he did it, but it looks like a lot of fun. And it's been kind of bouncing around in my brain lately, like how do I get a G62 on like a really small light bike like a BMX bike. Because I have a spare one laying about, we've used 9.4 amp hours. I've used 1.2 amp hours for the front motor on 52 volts. Front motor uses like 1/10 of what the rear one does. I feel raindrops. So yeah, I like these hub motors. They're just reliable and you don't have to mess with them. They just, you know, they just keep going. I would definitely get a 1,000 water as opposed to the 750. They're not really like wheelie machines. It's still very much like an e-bike motor. If you got it on smaller wheels with the right bike, you could wheelie with them, I'm sure, but it's still very much like an e-bike motor, you know? You can get the G62 with the freewheel or the cassette splines. Man, it is getting cold, and this cloud looks like rain. We gotta get back. I'm feeling raindrops. Brr, what happened to my son? So these hub motors, I mean, if you want to buy just the motor, you can get them on AliExpress, like 200, 225, 250 for just the motor with no controller or rim or anything. Yep, it's definitely raining. We gotta get back. Oh boy. It's definitely raining. I gotta be careful with these fucking street tires. We're getting a shower. I hope my displays are waterproof. Unipack car feels like it's dying. I need to take a left, but I have cars that are trying to run me down and go past me. Trying to figure out if I want to go under something or just go home, but I think we're just going home. Oh man. Hello? Alright, well, it's raining. We are going home and we're trying not to crash with the big smoothie tires. I'm getting cold. Uh-oh. Unipack power battery cut out. Now we're just front motoring. And we need to be careful of the front motor because it's wet. Oh my god. Come on, baby. Let's turn off this, man, this is... We got the Unipack power battery on again. It's at 71 volts. Man, how much have we drained out of that? 11 amp hours and it's cutting off already? Oh. Whoa. Oh my goodness. You gotta be careful when it's wet. With that front one. Man, it is weird. It's like raining and there's cottonwood that's still kind of flying. Oh god. Okay. What happened to the sun? Oh man, this is... Whoa. Come on, front motor. Get me home, baby. I wasn't expecting this, but here we are. Brr. We got retard. Whoa, whoa! We gotta be careful. 72 volt battery. Oh, it went out again. Jeez, there's kind of like standing water, like seems like. Up here, okay. So is this car gonna... Oh man. Little baby Samsung's at 51 volts. 50. Come on, turn this 72 volter back on, baby. Oh. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Alright guys. I'm all wet. Thanks for watching. That was the dual hub motor masterclass. They keep working rain or shine. They don't really care if they're on a unit pack power battery or what's going on. Yeah, like and subscribe, leave a comment. I am soaked and this sucks. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.